And we're back in the Situation Room with Greg Eisenberg. He's the host of the Startup Ideas podcast. He's a serial digital entrepreneur. Very interesting guy. Very good Twitter account. I followed him for quite a while, probably since 2022, 23 when I started on Twitter. So it's great to have you here, Greg. Welcome to the show.
It was good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So first question is, right now, what do you think is better? Model, product, everything together, Claude Code or Codex or Google Anti-Gravity or whatever?
So great question. I just posted yesterday a podcast right here, actually. Yes. So I've been in the Anthropic and Google ecosystem for a while, and I've been seeing my buddy Riley Brown talking about Codex, calling it the super app. And your boy needs to, I need to get my hands dirty, right? I wanted to see like, if I think Riley's really smart. So I'm like, if my smart friends are using Codex, there must be a reason. So I had him on the podcast and I was like, basically, by the end of this video, I want you to pitch me why I should play with Codex. And he showed me a lot of really cool things, like how Codex really is a super app, how you can actually run Claude Code within Codex, which I had no idea. And so am I a convert is the question. Am I a convert to Codex? I'm not fully converted, but I think it's really up there. It's really up there, man. That's all I can say. I think it's worth, if you haven't played with Codex, you should be playing with Codex.
What would make you fully convert?
I like the idea of having one place where I can do everything. So, for example, I think it's a mistake that Claude Design, which I think is a great product, is a separate app. You have Claude Design over here, and then you have Claude Cowork, Claude Code, in different places. What's really cool about Codex is that it's one place where you can do basically anything. So, but that being said, it's still early. So, for example, Riley kind of hinted that all the work that OpenAI did on the browser Atlas, which I thought was a really cool product, is going to be integrated into Codex. So, you might remember this, Theo, like basically OpenAI was working on a ton of different products. And then they had this moment where they're like, okay, we're going to stop working on so many individual products, and we're going to just really focus on the super app, which is Codex. So what would get me to convert fully into Codex would be if, things like Atlas were integrated.
Have you used Atlas or any agentic browsers? Like, have you daily driven them? Are
Yeah.
they actually good? Would you
I
replace
mean,
Google Chrome?
I mean, would you consider Dia an agentic browser?
Kind of. I tried using Dia for a while, but it was just too annoying. I wanted to be able to switch, but I was just too used to Chrome, and it just like, the AI features offered too little benefit to me. I just couldn't do it. I went back to Chrome.
Yeah, like to me, I don't know if Dia is really fully agentic. I would call it like AI enabled. I use Dia as my like daily driver, but I don't find it um like I'm not in love with my browser. Let's put it that way. I've used Perplexity's browser a bunch, and I thought there were some really interesting things there. But now with Perplexity Computer, um, I find it, I'm back to Dia basically. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Dia goes. I know it was acquired by Atlassian, right?
Yes. For like 600 million, right? With no revenue.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it was even more than 600 million. I think it was even more. Let's check actually. Let's do a fact check.
Fact check.
We're gonna do yeah. Um,
I don't see it. 610 million.
610 million. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm I hope someone's listening to this because, there's times like go make a browser, someone go make a browser. There are times like I'm like, do I got to make a browser? Am I going to have to do this? I know I was watching like Theo.gg recently on YouTube, and he's talking about how Helium is his favorite browser. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either. Helium browser. Oh, it's
Yeah.
like privacy, open source, native bang split. It's browser for like coding nerds, I think, not for normal people, normal consumers.
I think what's going to happen is, you know, you used to use, you download Mac or you worked on Windows, and that was your window to using a computer. And I think what's going to happen is, you know, your LLM is going to be in your window into using the computer, and your browser is going to be a part of that. So I'm not surprised that Codex is integrating the browser. You would think that Anthropic and Google and all the other, major models are going to include a browser, and I think that's what's going to happen. So I think that my take is that, in 2 or 3 years, I think what's going to happen is we're going to be using OpenAI, or we're going to be using Anthropic as the browser of choice. And
What?
that's why you're seeing, like, I don't know, is Perplexity still doing the browser?
I think so. Perplexity Comet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Like,
has
I would
it.
be curious to know if, like, when were the updates to this? You know what I mean? Was it When was the last update to this?
Let's see. Perplexity Comet changelog.
I don't have any. Uh, okay, wow. So they're still working on this, but I would be. It would be interesting to see Perplexity basically put this into Perplexity Computer. Like, that's what I think. That's what I think is the insight that Riley kind of put me onto, and where I think it's all going.
So do you think that like the move for Google is to build sort of a separate AI browser, or is it just to integrate AI into their existing browser, which is, the biggest browser in the world, which is kind of what they're
I think,
doing, right, with Gemini?
yeah, yeah. I think the move for any frontier model is to just make a super app. Like, if I've learned anything around playing with Codex, going back to your question around Codex and how I feel about it, if I've learned anything from using Codex in the last 24 hours, is that having a super app and having one place where you can do things is a really good consumer experience. And browsing is a key part of actually getting work done on the computer. So browsing should be a part of that. So if I'm Google or if I'm whoever, I'm focusing on the super app. I'm assuming that, the super app for Google is going to be anti-gravity, right? That's their answer to Codex.
Mm. I have not really tried anti-gravity. It seems like more of a like traditional IDE than a. It seems like more of a copy of Cursor than of Codex, in that it's
Yeah,
much more
that's a
about
good
code.
question. Yeah, I guess a good question is Google anti-gravity their super app, or is it Google AI Studio? And do those products merge over time?
Or what about just Google Chrome?
Or Google Chrome? That's a good point. Maybe it just goes into Google Chrome. That's a really good point.
So, like, what would you say your personal stack is in terms of hardware and software for productivity? Mine is not super optimized. It's just Apple and Google Chrome.
I mean, you use more than that for productivity. Like, I'm sure you're not using any of the LLMs, anything agentic.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, like Claude and ChatGPT all the time for everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a part of your productivity stack, right?
Yeah, yeah, good point.
Uh, like, what do you use for to-do lists?
To-do list, just like Apple Notes.
Um, do you use Raycast? Do you use Obsidian? Do
Obsidian a
you,
little bit.
yeah,
Obsidian is
there you
really
go.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Obsidian is cool once you get it set up, I'm still in the process of getting it set up. I think it's important to have a second brain somewhere, right? So what is a second brain? A second brain is basically a repository of all that's going on in your brain, but also in your business's brain. So having like your data somewhere is really important. So what's cool is with tools like Granola and meeting recorders, despite like I find meeting recorders to be pretty annoying. Like when I see a meeting recorder in a meeting, I'm kind of like, I feel like my guard's a little bit up. I don't know about you, but the value of that data is so good. So once you get that in your second brain, whether you use Notion, whether you use Obsidian, um, whether you use Google Docs, then you can actually use that and connect that to your LLM of choice. So you can use it with Claude Code and build agentic workflows. You can use it with Codex. You can use it with whatever you choose, Perplexity Computer. But I think it's worth like investing in. So for me, my second brain lives somewhere, half in Notion, half in Google products, basically. And then I take that information and then I run workflows, agentic workflows, to actually help me get my work done. So for example, like analyzing meeting notes to tell me what to do tomorrow. So that's a part of my productivity stack. I also use Things, the to-do app, which I've been using for literally 15 years. And it should be more agentic. It's like, that's like the opposite of agentic. It's like an old school thing, but I just find it's a beautiful app. Not affiliated, but I find the Things to-do list app really cool. Tools that I want to like go, spend more time to help increase my productivity. One is I want to spend more time with Raycast. Have you looked into Raycast at all?
I have not. Raycast,
Yeah.
your shortcut to everything.
Yeah. So it's one of those tools where, again, like a lot of my smart friends use Raycast and they swear by it. It's one of those things where I'm like, it's probably worth looking into playing with.
So it's like Obsidian in the sense that it's like very fast, sort of productivity optimized, like Mac native software, but for everything instead of just note taking.
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's it do with AI?
Yeah. This is new. Like, this is new. It used to, like, how Raycast started, I believe, was just making a smarter finder, like a Mac OS finder.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of use out of that. The default macOS Finder is terrible.
Yeah,
Apple needs to
exactly.
acquire these people.
Yeah.
So you had a post recently about the chief clipping officer. Let me see if I could find that because that was a good post.
I upset a lot of people with that post, actually.
When was that? Oh, there it is. We'll soon see the rise of the chief clipping officers at companies. Probably will be the highest paid marketing hire of 2027. So, like, what do you think the full sort of marketing, comms, distribution meta is for startups right now?
Um, Let me first explain what I meant by this. So when I said we'll soon see the rise of chief clipping officers at companies, I didn't necessarily mean, a lot of people in the replies were saying like, what do you mean AI is just going to do cheap, clipping? You're just going to have AI do clipping. And like fair, AI is going to help you do a lot of clipping. But when I say you're going to hire chief clipping officers or fractional chief clipping officers, what I mean by that is you're going to have people, senior people at your company, help think about how can I create short form content that's going to get spread on Instagram, TikTok, X, etc. Which I don't think is I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. That you're going to be thinking about how do I reverse engineer the short form, and then think about, okay, which type of long form am I going to create such that I'm going to get really good short form? That's basically what I meant by this tweet. Now, when it comes to startups, what is the meta in terms of startups and videos to create growth and stuff like that? I think it's a mix of this, meaning, I think startups are waking up to the fact that, and all companies are waking up to the fact that video is, a fundamental unit of social. And it's like, we breathe in oxygen, social media breathes in video, right? If you go on your X feed, if you go on your Instagram, if you go on your TikTok, it's mostly video. Therefore, we're all in the business, no matter what we're doing, to create video content. So what I meant by probably this will be probably the highest paid marketing hire of 2027 is you're going to, if you understand video and you understand how to create, you know, scroll stopping video, both long form and short form, you can do a lot of damage now.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like sort of very obvious looking back on this just from first principles. Like, humans love looking at video. We love looking at video that interests us and grabs us. So it's going to be like short form video with like a definitive hook. And then you'll need to pick short form video out of long form video to figure out what will draw people in the most. And so, like, of course, clipping is going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, clipping is, yeah, exactly. So here's what some people, like if you scroll up a little, let's see what someone said. Scroll down. Okay. Oh yeah, Taylor Lorenz. Won't all that be done by AI?
Friend of the
No,
show.
it won't. Yeah, friend of the show. Friend, like, she's nothing against her personally. It's just it's not going to. No, it's not all. Not everything is going to be done by AI. Like, not everything. Like, you're still going to need some strategy here.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are saying, why wouldn't AIs just do this? Yeah, I agree. And also, like, clipping is like, we've tried AI clipping, like at MTS and before that at A16Z, and it's like not that good, even
Yeah.
still, surprisingly. Like, you give it a whole transcript and ask it to pick out like the best moments will be most likely to go viral, and it's like okay at it, but it doesn't have that good taste, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, the point of this whole thing, the takeaway that anyone should have right now is less on the minutia and the nuance of this tweet and more about whatever business you're in or want to be in, how can you create incredible short form and long form video content with with the in mind thinking about short form first. So reverse engineering the short form and using that to generate a ton of attention, top of the funnel, and then you're going to convert. That's so short form will be your top of the funnel. People can learn about who you are, what you stand for, what you care about, what your identity is. And then from that, then you convert them down the funnel and you create different pieces of content that nurtures them to whatever it is you're selling. And if you figure that out, you'll be in a good place.
So you've been in the startup space for a very long time. You've been vibe coding for a very long time. What do you make of like the current state of vibe coding? Like, have any like real products come out of vibe coding so far? Except of course Cloud Code.
I mean, how do you define vibe coding?
I define vibe coding as someone with minimal technical experience, basically someone who would not have been able to like create a piece of software given any amount of time without an AI, who creates a piece of software that is commercially valuable with an AI.
Yeah, I mean, we have a business called ideabrowser.com where every single day we share startup ideas and trends. And this business started off as a vibe coded piece of software. Uh, Granted, now there's, you know, engineering that, I would call it AI engineering that helps scale this business. But um, yeah, like I can't tell you like, okay, this company is, was vibe coded or that company was vibe coded. But the truth is, if you vibe code software and it's generating 7, 8, 9, 10 figures of revenue, chances are you're not going to be telling people that you vibe coded it because like, you know, saying you vibe coded a software and once it hits scale is almost like a slur. It's vibe coded. It's like, you know, it just feels like a little bit of a slur. And what's not a slur is like agentic engineering, the opposite of a slur, right? It's just like, oh, I'm using Claude Code, I'm using, you know, other, Codex and stuff like that to build the product. So the state of vibe coding is there, I feel like I'm one example of ideabrowser.com has scaled um, using vibe coding and now has transitioned from vibe coding to agentic engineering. But by the way, agentic engineering, like that's how all developers code now, like how many developers are doing manual coding right now, today? Not that many. They're in Codex and they're in some of these in some of these IDs. They're in anti-gravity. So yeah, I think the state is vibe coding is almost like the gateway drug to agentic engineering. Um, and there's a lot of people, including me, who, started vibe coding, then realized that, hey, I actually can't scale as fast, as big as I'd like. Therefore, I transitioned to a cursor and anti-gravity or something like that. But I have some traction, and then that's when you hire someone who is more of a trained engineer.
Yeah, but we still haven't yet seen the like real one person $1 billion businesses. Like there was this one that like kind of made a buzz in the New York Times like a month ago, and then it turned out apparently to be fraudulent. uh, it
Yeah.
was something to do with like healthcare billing, but like when do you think we'll like really start to see like real fully vibe coded businesses where you have like people who have no technical expertise, who aren't hiring anyone external, who are just like purely using models to produce businesses that are like tremendously valuable uh, without hiring anyone.
Think about how far we've progressed in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Like 6 months ago, we didn't have OpenClaw. We didn't have, I mean, did Claude Code even exist 6 months ago?
Yes, but no one was
Um,
using it.
yeah. So,
And Opus 4.5 wasn't out, so it wasn't that good.
yeah, exactly. So it feels like we're in a new era right now. Like when Sam Altman said there's going to be a one person, $1 billion company a year ago or whatever, everyone thought he was, or a lot of people thought he was crazy. Um, and he was crazy then. But I think where we are in 2026, like it's, it sounds crazy to say, but I believe that it's possible to start a one person $1 billion company today. Now, does that mean that your business is worth $1 billion? Does it mean that you're doing $1 billion of revenue? That's a whole can of worms we can go down. But I will say that I think that the one person $1 billion company is probably starting today and probably hits that metric next year or the year after. So I think in 2027, 2028, we're gonna see one person, $1 billion companies.
Like, what sectors do you think they will be in, or is it just too hard to tell?
Um, well, I think it's sectors where you don't need a lot of people. You know what I mean? So, for example, like we have a business called LCA, and it's called Late Checkout dot Agency, and this business creates. It's a design agency that creates new AI products for the world's biggest brands on the planet, and also does AI transformation. But we have to have a big company because it scales with people, when we're working with if we're reimagining what, the design of Grammarly is or what Dropbox looks like, you need to have people. So this would be a bad business to get to $1 billion one person. You couldn't do it. So you have to ask yourself, if your goal is to build a one person, $1 billion company, what is something that scales with agents, not people, right? And that I think is things that have very little customer interaction. Like you don't need to be in person. Um, you can sell info, you can sell, it could be like a SaaS business that focuses less on enterprise and more like prosumer or something like that. Um, it could be something like, what Farza is doing with Clicky. Um, I know that he has a team, but I think that, um, I saw what he was doing, and I think it's really beautiful, and it's a beautiful product and really cool. But I think, something like this as one person could be $1 billion company. I think we don't know how much um, Peter sold OpenClaw for, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was $1 billion and it was one person. Something that's open source technology could potentially sell for $1 billion. I wouldn't be surprised if a media company, one person, sells for $1 billion. Rumors, I think that TVPN sold for 100, $200 million. Um, I think they were a team of 12 or something like that. Um, could they be a smaller team in the future? Um, Possibly. So media, open source, SaaS, info, uh, and yeah, I think that's what you're looking at.
All right. Well, Greg Eisenberg, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on MTS, and we're going to have a quick break before the next segment.